Welcome to the Better Mondays weekly live chat. The purpose of these get togethers is really going to be to explore the game of money as it relates to your own life, the design that you want to create for your ideal life. And really, this is just an opportunity for us to share some frameworks, some concepts, some skills, ways that people are living their lives in enjoyable and abundant ways in this modern economy, when it's more possible than ever to create revenue streams, create jobs, businesses, investments in ways that really align holistically for you in terms of happiness and joy and fulfillment and bliss and supporting your family and feeling confident about your path toward retirement and financial freedom. My name is Colin Moynihan. I'm going to take a minute to introduce myself right now, and then we're going to dive in on today's topic, which is called the Cashflow Quadrant. So, I am a financial and a business coach. I leverage my experience as a CFO and entrepreneur to help people change their money mindset to be more intentional and strategic so that they can live the life that they desire. I collaborate with people to help them gain a greater sense of control, clarity, and mastery over their money, which in turn impacts all the areas of life. How do I do this? Well, I help to empower people by looking at their financial health through the lens of a business. Your life is your primary business. And it's up to you as the CEO of this business to decide how you want to run it and how you want to lead it and lead yourself in the pursuit of enhancing your life. I think that in order to live our lives to the fullest, we really have to start on the inside. We have to start with our mindset and our beliefs. We must embrace what's called a growth mindset and recognize that in order to grow and evolve into the best versions of ourselves, we really have to learn, always learn. But one of the things we have to learn is how to be intentional and proactive versus continually reacting to the world around us and winging it. As this relates to living a life where you're thriving, money is vitally important. It's a critical topic. It's also somewhat of a taboo topic still in many families. And really, let's face it, we don't talk about this with many friends either. Maybe that closest friend if you're lucky. As a result of this lack of communication around money, however, we all experience similar emotions, leading us to feel fairly alone in our money game. This aloneness, this unknown component of our financial journey can really lead to anxiety. It can lead to uncertainty, which impacts our decision making in all areas of life. Even for people that are doing very well financially, as I've seen over and over with successful clients, they often don't know how well they're even doing because they haven't set clear goals around their path to retirement and financial freedom. They haven't clarified what the path is going to look like to achieve these end goals. And so they might feel just like everybody else, even though the reality, if they got under the hood and they looked at their finances and mapped out their path towards financial freedom, they find that they're doing way better than they planned. And I've seen this even in people just starting their savings journey. When we can clarify what a path looks like and what the goals would be through a career toward retirement and financial independence, no matter where you're at now, that is empowering. Learning the skills, what to look for, how to increase your earning and your savings potential, all those things can really empower us. I've found that when people take the time to seek the guidance to clarify their own journey towards and goals for financial independence, they begin to operate from this more confident, empowered perspective, and that leads in and of itself to new thinking about how we want to spend our time to earn money, how much money we believe that we're capable of making, and how we want to invest our hard-earned savings in a variety of ways in light of this desire for life to really be meaningful and fulfilling, and for us to get a little bit more personal freedom, perhaps, a little bit of time back, a little bit of confidence. So today I want to talk about this useful concept you can see on the screen that I share with all of my clients early on in our coaching relationships, and this is called the Cashflow Quadrant. It's a concept taught by Robert Kiyosaki, in his books. Well, there's one is the book by this name, The Cashflow Quadrant, and also the previous book to the Cashflow Quadrant called Rich Dad Poor Dad. For anyone looking to really dive in on this concept of seeing your business, your life rather, as your primary business and yourself as this really critical role of CEO of your business of life, I would suggest you dive in and explore some of his books. Anyone can learn to navigate this quadrant, and this is one of the most empowering topics that I explore with my coaching clients. So the cash flow quadrant concept is divided into four areas. We have the E and the S quadrants on the left side, and these represent earning active income. In order to make more money, you have to perform something. You have to trade your time to make money. We can see at the top left of this cash flow quadrant a couple of phrases. One says no leverage, and one says 5% of wealth, 95% of population. And so when we look at the left side of the cash flow quadrant here, with the E, employee, and then S, self-employed quadrants, this is where most people make money. This is where 95% of people, as is written, make money. However, this is where only 5% of wealth resides. And that's an important takeaway. If there is any takeaway from today, it would be that in this game of money, it's critical to, at the very least, just recognize that statistic. 5% of wealth is earned from the left side of this quadrant. So the S, or self-employed, bottom left piece of the quadrant, this is when you go off on your own as a self-employed individual. Maybe you are a consultant, you're a coach, you're a lawyer who started your own practice, you're anyone in this solopreneur world of online and technology economies where you help people, you provide a service, and you still get paid, but it's your own business now. And so you're still trading time for money, but you have flexibility. You have the control of your schedule a little bit more than as an employee. You have really more options to create and be creative around how you spend your time earning money. But the fact is, you're still trading your time for money if you're self-employed and you don't have a business structure yet. And so when we talk about the left side of the quadrant, probably most of us have some income that's coming in from this side of the quadrant. As an employee, if you're going to remain an employee, you have some ways to increase your earnings. And this is in red at the bottom of the top left quadrant. You have the potential to increase your dollars per hour. And that's about it. But there's many ways to do that, and that's through gaining experience in your job. It's through learning and skill building, picking up new skills, and showing your boss, who's ultimately in charge of the decision about how much money you make, that you're worth it, that you deserve it. When you're an S, or self-employed individual, you have the potential now, like I said, to set your own hours, and you can also, through skill building and experience, increase the dollars per hour that you earn. And so your lever is still tied to trading your time, but if you do it in more efficient ways, if you provide a higher level of service, you can start to charge a higher hourly rate. Next, we're going to flip to the right side of the quadrant. And this is, I'm going to say one more thing about the left side of the quadrant. The word no leverage. So what leverage means in this regard is using other people's time or other people's money, or, let's leave it at that. And that's how Robert Kiyosaki shares it, other people's time or other people's money. When you're trading time for money, you're not gaining any incremental revenue from the efforts of other people or money. That's leverage. When you flip to the right side of the cash flow quadrant here, with B as a business and I as an investment, leverage comes into play here. And what that means in terms of a business is that perhaps you hire other employees, you pay them an hourly rate. It's pretty much an investment in that employee, and they're going to produce for you, and they're going to help you generate income. And in a well-run, successful business, the amount of income that employee can generate on your behalf puts money in your pocket. And so you've leveraged that employee. Or perhaps you've taken out a loan to invest in your business and you put 10% down and you got a 90% loan. Let's just say it's $1,000,000 and you put $100,000 investment in and 900,000 from the bank. Well, that money now is mixed into the equation of your business, and you can, quote, have leverage to go out and scale your business, hire the employees you need, improve the technology and the systems by borrowing someone else's money. And so that also helps you to put money in your pocket. 95% of wealth resides on the right side of the cash flow quadrant, and this is where an estimated 5% of the population are earning money. 5%. That's crazy. I think that number's got to be bigger, but this is from a Robert Kiyosaki statistic, and I'm just going to go with it for now, even if it's 10%. The point is that not a lot of people are making money through the B and the I sides of this cash flow quadrant. However, they are by far the most lucrative. You might be thinking that you're an E right now if you are listening to this and you have a job and someone pays your bills, or that you're an S right now and you're maybe a consultant, or you have your own business as a lawyer. Well, here's the thing. We can all reside in multiple quadrants. And if you're an employee and you have a retirement plan, a 401k that you put money into or that your company matches, well, guess what? You're not only an E, but you're also in the I quadrant. You're already playing that game and you're investing money. And if you have, let's say, $10,000 invested in a retirement plan, it's going to be earning money on your behalf every year. You could earn 10% on that $10,000 in a year, and so your money makes you 10% of $10,000 or $1,000, and that's real, just like your job paying you is real. And so you are potentially an E and an I in the E quadrant and in the I quadrant, but as a ratio, your earnings are going to be much higher probably from the E quadrant than the I quadrant, depending on your age, how long you've been investing, how much you have invested. But the point is you can reside in multiple quadrants. The same applies for somebody that's in the S quadrant that has a retirement plan. On top of that, if we think about owning a house, there's an investment. Some might argue that it's not an investment with a great return, but that's where leverage can come in a little bit. And if you have purchased a house and you've got a mortgage, then you're using other people's money right now to support this investment that you have. And so if you put 10% down on a house, let's say 20% down on a house, let's say it's a $500,000 house, you put 20% down, or $100,000, the bank's lent you $400,000. So you're borrowing money from them. That house appreciates every year. You're paying down a mortgage, but without that, you'd probably be paying rent somewhere else. So I consider that a wash. So in addition to having a retirement plan, if you own a house, then you do have an investment, factually speaking. So you've got multiple revenue streams now as an I. Pretty cool, huh? You've got a revenue stream as an E or an S, revenue streams as an I. And this is the game that we can begin to play once we understand this framework, is that we can create revenue streams, create additional revenue streams. Our life is the business here. And the person I just described with as an employee with a house and a retirement plan, that business of your life has 3 income streams. They all deserve some focus. Largely, if you're an employee, you have to put all your focus into your job. And so that's one of the pieces just to be aware of, is that how much time you have in a day is finite. And if you're employed full-time, you likely aren't going to be putting much effort into these other quadrants right now, but you can change your mindset if you decide that it feels appropriate for you to start exploring some other options. Now we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about the 2 different ways within this game of money that we can earn money, and that's trading time for money, the left-hand side of the cash flow quadrant. And next we'll talk about investing and putting your savings in and trading your money to make money, like we talked about in the I quadrant and the B quadrant. So we're just going to start and look at these four boxes that I've shown in this chart here, in this table. So the top box says trading time for money. And so if you're an employee or a self-employed individual, I just did a spectrum of earnings potential across different types of jobs. And the way we can talk about this is in terms of the hourly rate, which is in red. So if we talk the first row, and I say somebody making a salary of $50,000 a year earns $25 an hour in red. We'll work our way across the top row here. They work 2,000 hours. We're going to assume a full-time job is 2,000 hours. So if you're an employee full-time, you're working about 2,000 hours, 50 weeks a year, 40 hours a week. Multiplication gives you 2,000. And so somebody making $50,000 an hour, a year, sorry, $50,000 a year makes 25 an hour. That's our measurable, manageable component of earning. And they're often going to be an entry-level type job, maybe a junior employee at certain companies, maybe a public service employee, teachers, for example, other incredibly important positions that unfortunately pay less than they should. And as an employee, the way that you earn more money is you begin to make more money per hour through experience, through skills, through proving yourself to some kind of an employer. So maybe over time your rate goes from $25 to $50 an hour, the second row, and at that rate you're making $100,000 a year. And so it goes all the way to the bottom of our first box, where you could make $1,000 a year as an employee. Let's talk about this chief executive officers of large companies. You work a full-time job, that's $2 million a year. And so these are just ways to measure and think about earnings in terms of employees and even self-employed individuals. The second box is called getting time back. And so this is my attempt to show you what happens if you make the choice to leave the E quadrant and enter the S or the B quadrants. You begin to take some control of your destiny a little bit here. You've decided that perhaps you have a skill. I'll use my own example. When I first became a consultant, I had been a financial analyst. And so I went out on my own. I stopped being an E, and I decided to work to help other small businesses as a consultant. So I had to find clients, and I could charge an hourly rate. I could set what that hourly rate was, but it was up to me to find the work and the clients. But over time, somebody doing something like this, they could find that, let's use the top row of getting time back. They could find that starting left to right, they could earn $100,000 a year this way. The second column, $100 an hour at 1,000 hours per year. So as a consultant, if you can earn $100 per hour, you could potentially work 1,000 hours a year to earn $100,000. A full-time employee making $50 an hour would have to work 2,000 hours per year to earn the exact same amount. And so I think my main point and my key takeaway here that I recognized for myself was that by being creative, by beginning to design your own revenue streams, you can also begin to design your work-life balance and choose perhaps to try to create a business where you only have to work 1,000 billable hours a year. You just got half your time back. And so part of this exercise is not just about making more money, but it's about creating a life where you use your time in ways that are better aligned with your interests and what you want to be doing. So that's just a quick example here, is that as an S or a B in the middle box, you could earn $100,000, $200,000, $400,000 by working 1,000 hours a year if you determine ways to earn a higher dollar per hour rate. If you own a business, you can set your own rate, your own pay rate, especially if it's successful and you have other resources like employees or other people's money working for you. You can start to intentionally minimize the time you put in if you so desire. The third box, time back and maximize time spent. This is This is me going even further. What if somebody wants to work a quarter of the year, 500 hours in red in the top row of the third box? Well, if they made $100 an hour working our way to the left in the top row of the third box, they could make $50,000 per year. If they learn how to make $200 per hour in the second row at 500 hours per year, they could make $100,000. So I'm going to stop here and just focus on $100,000. I gave you 3 different ways to make 100 grand. Be an employee, make 50 bucks an hour, work full time all year. Be a self-employed individual, make $100 an hour doing maybe even the same task that you did for 50 an hour as an employee. You have the risk of finding your own clients, but the flexibility of controlling your own time, and perhaps you work half time and you do 1,000 hours a year, 20 hours a week of work, you make $100,000. Let's say you get even smarter, more efficient. You create a business where you only have to work 500 hours and you now pay yourself $200 an hour. There's another $100,000. So there's a lot of ways to earn $100,000, but most of us only think of it in terms of the E or maybe the S quadrants and having to trade our time for money. And that's just one way to slice this thing. And so the bottom box, what I call full financial freedom, this is just you, this is your dream scenario down the road. Let's say you live on less than $250,000 a year. I think most families probably should be able to. You can engineer that if you're not right now. And you have a set of investments that return $250,000 a year. You don't do any work. Let's say you have $2.5 million. You've been saving from decades and you're a little older and closer to retirement. That $2.5 million earning 10% a year gives you 250 grand. You don't have to work. You could put 1 hour of work in. That's the end goal. But for now, you probably aren't there yet. And so you're going to be earning money through some combination of trading your time and also investing your money. We're going to use the last few minutes here to talk about investments now. This is how are you using your money? I mentioned that if you have a retirement plan or you own a house, then you're an investor. You're in the I quadrant. So when we talk about investing generally, there's this idea of risk and return, and that's what this chart is here. This chart only looks at the primary investments that the majority of people would think about, especially like our parents' generation. It's stocks and bonds, and it's some variety of stocks and bonds. If you're an E employee, you don't have time probably to put into a lot of things around investing and focusing on specific investments, so you probably want to have some kind of an advisor help you, or just your 401k provider can have plans that are set up based on your target retirement age, and they can do the work for you. So in terms of risk and return here, all we're showing is that on the bottom left of this chart, we have government and money market type accounts. So if you put your money in a government or money market treasury, the returns will be low, a couple percent maybe. It's not going to earn you a lot of money every year. And as you move your way up into the right, you move through different types of investments in bonds, investment grade corporate bonds, up to blue chip equities is the third dot, mid cap equities is the fourth dot, small cap equities is the fifth dot at the top right. These are going to come with increased risk profiles, meaning the variance could go up and down faster, but over time we'll find that averages show a greater return for some of these equities than bonds, certainly. And historically over the last 100 years, we have some metrics that we can base our decisions off of, which I'll just say roughly, let's say bonds earn 3%, stocks earn 7 to 10%, depending on the type of stocks. And that's the game that we mostly play as investors. But what I want to show you here is something that I call it an investment garden. I want you to think of it this way. With every dollar you have, you can kind of plant it into some type of investment, and then it's going to grow, and they're all going to grow at different rates. And so envision, if you will, that this graph I'm showing you here is a garden. And there's 8 different types of investments, and we're going to pretend we invest $100,000 into each of these investments, and we let it grow for 35 years. This is what our garden could look like after 35 years. And the interesting part of this to me is the fact that the first five from the left, the first five options are essentially the options most people consider when they think about investing. The three options to the right aren't even talked about very much. I don't, in my personal life, I don't have really many mentors or influences that have invested in these items to the right. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk through these before we wrap up today. And so if you invest $100,000 in cash at the right, you just keep it sitting in a bank account, a checking account. It's not going to earn money. And so in 35 years, you're going to be sitting with 100,000. If you invest that same 100,000 in bonds in the second column here, at 3%, your 100,000 will grow to about $242,000. If you invest 100,000 in a blended bond and stock retirement that averages 5%, in the third column here, you'd make perhaps $430,000 in 35 years. So that's a 30-year-old, let's say, that does this game and invests for 35 years. This is what your money would look like when you're 65 years old. The fourth column, stock market at 7% return, shows that your 100,000 could grow to $761,000. If the stock market did even better, through no fault or effort of your own, if the stock market earned 10% in the fifth column from the left, your 100,000 would have grown to $1.7 million. And so that's quite a difference between a 7% and 10% stock market return. But ultimately, these are economic results that have little to do with your own effort. The three columns to the right have a little bit more to do with your own effort. They're going to require a little bit of your time, especially up front, or maybe even for longer periods of time. But these are examples of what else could happen with $100,000. What other types of, quote, crops could you grow? You invest your 100,000 in the ground in long-term real estate investments. So that's, you buy a property or a multi-unit building and you rent it out to people who have year-long leases. And so for anyone that wants to get in the long-term rental game, you can realize 20% plus returns a year. It'll take a little bit of your time, and we can even quantify the amount of time it'll take. But that 100,000 could grow to $2.2 million if you had a 20% return over 35 years. We're going to go next to the sixth column, seventh column from left, second column from right. That's called short-term rentals. And so a short-term rental, this is a fairly newer game in terms of like the scalability and feasibility because of companies like Airbnb helping this process. Short-term rentals can earn 40% a year. This is one of my revenue streams, is I have a short-term rental property, and because the stock market has had the real estate market's had a good couple of years, my investment has exceeded 40% easily, but even in a more conservative approach, I believe the investment would return 40% a year every year. So if you put $100,000 into something like this, you could have $4.5 million in 35 years. Now we're just going to go to the right. And this is a random example of a business model that I've personally explored, but the point of the far right graph is that if you start your own business, the far right column is you can start your own business and essentially there's an unlimited upside. That's the whole point. $100,000 in a business you believe in, you're passionate about, has unlimited upside. And so this quick example says if you invested $100,000 in a theoretical RV rental business, this is another revenue stream I started to play around with myself, renting out an RV. Well, if you did that for 10 RVs, put a $10,000 down payment on each RV, 10 RVs is $100,000 invested, you could create a business that would generate $13.5 million over 35 years. I'm not saying you want to run an RV rental business, not so sure that I would want to do that full time either. However, the point that I'm trying to make is that there are any number of different ways to invest $100,000. Often we look at a pretty small segment of options because that's what we've been taught. That's what we've been, quote, educated on. But the game's changing really fast right now, and it's easier than ever to get into real estate, to start your own business, to get creative around your design for your money game, your life design. And that's ultimately what I help people with. It's what I help coach people around. And so all I would encourage here for you, if you've listened to this, is just to keep an open mind about what's possible for yourself. If you feel stuck right now, I want you to know that there are a lot of options, and there are many people out there that are willing to share their own experiences and help you to expand your beliefs and your mindset about what's possible for yourself. If you have any interest in connecting at any point, please visit me at my coaching site. I'd love it if you want to sign up for my weekly newsletter. There's a sign up box on the homepage. You'll also get a free guide that I call 4 Simple Steps to Becoming the CEO of Your Life. And so if you sign up for that newsletter every week, I'll send out some information around similar topics to this. My whole goal is just to help inspire and expand your belief system around what's possible. Last, if you want to learn about coaching, you're welcome to sign up at the top right of my website. There's a link for a free 30-minute coaching session. So feel free to sign up, connect with me. I can explain to you what the process looks like when working with a coach, how it could potentially benefit you. It is an investment in your time. We can talk through the specifics of the return that you'd hope to get on an investment as a coach. And that's what everyone should think through if they're going to work with a coach, is what do I hope to get out of this? What you'll find when we're talking about topics like this that can have such incremental benefits year over year for your life is that the returns can be fantastic if you find yourself working with a coach or a consultant or therapist or whatever that helping modality is that gives you somebody, a non-judgmental mirror to bounce your ideas off of. The life-changing impacts can be great, whether it comes to your financial security and your feelings of abundance, or your confidence and your overall mindset. Showing up for yourself in any of these ways to keep learning and growing is something that I encourage and that I've benefited greatly from myself. So thank you for showing up today. Have a great week,